Recoup. Today is Friday, May 15th, 2026. I'm Sweets. This is Sid. This is our Friday weekly check-in where we recap what's been shipped this week and talk about what we're going to be planning to ship next week. Kicking it off how we always do, in one word, how you feeling today? In one sentence, what do you need today?
In one word, I don't want to say good, but like I'm feeling nice. Woke up a little late, got to roll out of bed a little, a little earlier or later than usual. So yeah, I'm feeling nice. What do I need today? Need your feedback to try to figure out how do I ship these PRs smaller without having to wait. I'm like struggling with PR shipping, tiny little PRs. And it's probably just a talk through to get past the hump.
We can definitely talk about that.
How about you?
Feeling a lot. And I need more people testing the sandbox repo so that I know what needs to be focused on in order to fully deprecate the chat code base. So I guess I need blockers. What is remaining between where we are and us fully swapping chat.recoupable.com over to what's currently at sandboxes? Do you want to start with your PRs and how we can get more out the door?
Yeah. The struggle that I have is shipping tiny PRs and then having to wait for review rather than shipping a bunch of tiny commits and then wait for review. I guess what I feel like, and I want to talk through this, is I feel like once I ship a PR, I am then done on that PR until it's reviewed. So like move on to something else. So I feel like I kind of get stuck at this point of like, okay, I shipped this one little thing. I know I need to do 20 more things, but I have to wait 4 hours until Sweets sees it. You know, unless like you see it immediately, but like, you know, on average, let's say like it's between a day and immediately. So it's sometime, you know. So I'm trying to figure out a way of like, some things I'll merge, or sometimes some shit I'll like, yeah, merge like on my own when I feel like it's not gonna do a bunch of damage, or it's not like you know, if it's some UI stuff or whatever. But then a lot of the times, not a lot of times, sometimes even when I go down that route, it is tough when you'll like depreciate back the code, revert back the code because of like a principle that's not followed or whatever. So like I am internally struggling with wanting to get shit out the door and follow your principles and wait to see if what I followed is correct and whatever. With all that being said, I do understand a lot of the feedback that you had on the gigantic monolithic PRs of the two that you had that I had shipped recently, which was the skills repo flip or like refactor and the docs refactor. So I do understand the concept of the longer, more the more I add to a PR, the more gigantic it is, the harder it is for you to review it and understand what's going on. And so I get the concept of breaking it into smaller PRs. Like I do, like I get that. But yeah, so like I'm just struggling between like, you know, small little tiny PRs with that are dependent on each other and waiting on one versus, you know, just getting shit out the door. And I like try to want to hear your thoughts on that line between getting shit out the door and waiting for true feedback from a second pair of eyes versus, you know, like those kinds of things. Like, you know, I don't know. I'll stop there and get your thoughts.
If I'm understanding you right, you feel like monolithic PRs are faster because you put out one single thing, it gets reviewed and merged, and it's done. It's in the rearview mirror. It's not a whole bunch of tiny cuts that each one requires review and feedback.
Yeah, each one requires waiting for review and feedback. I can get from 0 to 80 of like what I'm trying to accomplish in the same session, rather than getting from 0 to 10 in a session and then pausing until I get feedback. So that's been my struggle, is the pause between sessions. And I guess another question, like what deserves the pause versus what can we just ship and, you know, like we can live with some tech debt, or we can live with okay, this is shipped, but we need to like refactor or whatever, you know, and shit like that. Like for example, the docs, the docs design of fonts and shit like that, right? Like, is that something where if we ship it, is it the worst thing in the world if, or is that something I can like ship as a small PR, merge it, move on to the next thing, and then like, so I'm struggling with that. Like, where is the line between like, this needs Sweets' eyes, I want to make sure that it's following his best practice principles, I want to make sure that it's not going to break anything, and like it requires that level of it deserves however long it needs in the queue to wait for Sweets to look at this, versus yeah, I can just move forward as it's not that big of a deal.
I want to remove myself as a blocker from everything. If you want to ship. Ideally, if you are shipping, you're focusing on becoming a better coder, which means learning good coding practices, which means practicing consistently, reading books that are like 500 pages like Clean Code, and really learning what it means to be a good dev. The question that I have is this the highest and best use of Sid's time to be a better coder? If it's docs and like ship it. If it's like font stuff and docs changes, they'll impact people bringing their own agent and now all of the sandbox. So it does impact the entire code base. But if I don't like it, I revert it. And then I typically fix it if it gets reverted. The main principle is life is chiefly maintenance. It's easy to build something and ship it. What is actually challenging is maintaining it. I listened to the 4 or 5 hour podcast with Lex Friedman and the FFmpeg team. FFmpeg underlies all of video playback globally. We use it in our content creation pipeline. Netflix uses it for streaming videos. YouTube uses it for processing every single video. Everybody from small startups like us to major broadcast networks use FFmpeg. And then a team like Google will come out and then they'll open up a PR against FFmpeg and they'll say, look, I have all these credentials. I'm a Google dev. We need this specific feature. And the FFmpeg team will look at it and they'll say, this is shit code. And the Google team will get frustrated and they'll say, no, I'm a Google developer. You don't understand. I have all these credentials. And FFmpeg says, like, I don't care what your credentials are. We need to maintain this code. We don't get paid for the work we're doing. This is open source. It's not a funded project. You might ship it, but then we have to maintain it, our small team of 10 to 15 people. And like the same thing happens with all these devs that come in. We have 6 devs in the chat. There's more that come in every week. Most of them want to ship a thing, they get paid, and then after the first paycheck, they leave. And so they might think, yeah, I'll just ship this thing and it's good, but if they ship it, it needs maintained. And so if they only ship the docs and they don't ship the API and the chat and open agents and it's all not top tier code, I am the one that has to deal with that. I am the one that has to maintain that. And so like you ship something and then I give you feedback on, hey, you shipped this thing. Did you ship the other things or did you actually make it good? And then you say, no, I'm focusing on these other things. And so then you ship a monolithic PR that requires 20 other dependencies. And then if you don't maintain that, that then distracts me and I then have to go and clean up your work. And so I get that it's fun and it seems like Sid can just ship all these things, but if you're not maintaining it, you're just adding more to my plate and slowing down the engineering team and distracting me from the work that needs to get done. Like I get that you want me to review as fast as possible. So do all the devs on the team. I've tried doing that where I review instantly, and that's so much context switching. I'm in the middle of a task, the dev pings me, Sid pings me. If every single time someone pings me, I stop what I'm doing and I go, none of the tasks that I'm working on get progressed. And so the current place that I'm in is I try to do code review 2 or 3 days a week. And that leads to you saying, okay, well now I'm not getting feedback fast enough. If it's simple stuff, just ship it. And if it ends up impacting me, I will revert it and I will update it. The same question still stands. Is this the highest and best use of Sid's time? The same thing goes for you of context switching. I keep asking, you told me at the end of last year, your goal is to have 10 enterprise clients. We are 5 months in, almost halfway through the year, and we still have 1. We haven't landed a single other enterprise client. Unless you want me to stop being an engineer and go into sales mode, which I do bringing people in like Ben and Excellencia, someone needs to be doing sales, and every moment that you're spending doing dev work is less time that you're not spending setting up discovery calls, doing marketing, talking to our existing customers, selling to new customers. There's a lot that needs to go on the business side. So if you want to ship. If your goal is to get my feedback, I know these coding principles are important. And over time, I'm continuing to be reminded how important they are. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast is a valid principle. KISS, keep it simple, is a valid principle. Single responsibility principle is a valid principle. I get that you don't spend time coding all day. You don't spend time maintaining code for you. You just want to chuck it over the fence and then keep running. You're not maintaining what you're shipping. And so I won't take that thought seriously unless you are maintaining, you have to deal with the responsibility of maintaining what you're shipping. Because again, going back to the principle I started this with, life is chiefly maintenance. It is easy to ship and chuck stuff over the wall. It is hard to get stuff that works for decades or hundreds of years. And I am trying to build something that works and is stable for decades or hundreds of years. And that it's a different problem to be solved than I want to impress this customer tomorrow. I'm going to ship a 300-line PR that touches 12 different features. I'm going to get it in the rearview mirror and then I'm never going to look at it again.
Okay, let me rebuttal with a tangible thought, or with a tangible situation. And I think that like I'm starting to see how we can work through this, because I do understand what you're coming from, and I do understand the question of, is this the best use of your time shipping the code versus going to get customers? And the maybe that's the difference that I need to be more clear about, is when I'm shipping just to ship to have fun and have learn and whatever, versus like, hey, I shipped this because it's going to help me go get customers or maintain customers. And I still need to practice, obviously, better PR, SRP, things of that nature. But I'll give you an example of, okay, yesterday I shipped the plugin for catalog management on my own. You said, you looked at it, were like, hey, I don't understand how this is, why we're doing this. I tried to explain why briefly. I should have more been better explained why, and been more clear about that. Demoed it yesterday, got great feedback, which required me to ship again something to deliver to the customer by the end of the night. Instead of working in the skills folder, I just moved what I had to do to our plugins folder, since you're not maintaining it. So I knew I could just start shipping PRs and on it and merging things, and then sending to the customer, hey, here's how you install our plugins and marketplace on Cloud Code, so you can try this demo. And I did all of that because I had to get it to the customer. Whereas I didn't want, I bypassed the chain of command when it comes to the maintaining of the code base, in a way that also like didn't affect the code base, right? Like, so like, how can I just get around it? But it was for the sole purpose of delivering to a customer an experience that will give them increased retention, increased sales potentially, and so I think maybe maybe I just need to do a better job of explaining why what I'm shipping is important. I need to do a better job at breaking it down into smaller chunks so that it's easier for you to manage the PRs, but understand and from a priority level of why Sid's PR for X, over here is something that isn't affecting or isn't necessarily customer facing, or but this one over here is customer facing, and it, if we're gonna move, if we're gonna put anything on the queue of PR review, or like Sweets needs eyeballs on this because it's going to be customer facing, and I need it, like, just, I guess, getting better at communication when it comes to why I'm doing what I'm doing, maybe will help.
Text files, I think, is the best place for you to be working in plugins and skills. That's your very opinionated this is how to use all the tools that we have, and it's directly usable. Bring your own agent and in our sandboxes. So you working in plugins and skills, I think, are the best repos for you to be working in. Docs is right up there as well.
I agree. Like, and again, that allows me to ship things without touching the API if I don't need to. But then we can move things. I guess that's the big question, though, right? Is like shipping in just skills, plugins, docs, and then waiting for the API to follow up on that. Let me give you an example. Is it easier? Not easier, it's the wrong word. Is it a better use of time to, actually, I'm going to answer my own question. It is ship the plugin for catalog deals in a way that I can get it in front of a customer to test, whether it's hitting our APIs or not. And then once there's it's proven concept and we're getting good feedback, then flag to you, hey, this thing needs, this thing is useful to customers. How do we add it into our API? Like, you know, how do we, like the research, same thing with the research shit. It was the chart metric skill system that was just Python. And then we moved it into our APIs once we realized, okay, this is kind of important. Same thing with the context or the content system. Okay, cool. That makes me feel it makes me feel better to know that I can ship things quickly, but there's a clearer line between where is the things that need more review and where are the things that we can just put in front of a customer quickly to see if there's value before we fucking really think about how are we going to maintain. We shouldn't maintain things that we don't need to maintain because they don't provide value to customers. Right? And so how do we prove that something is worth the maintenance before we plan to maintain it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, cool. That's good. I think I'm good on that.
Awesome.
All right, you want to go over what you shipped?
Credits had a big revamp.
I know, I'm so excited for it.
It's the foundation for how we charge people, especially individuals, not enterprise. Based off of your comment yesterday, this is different for enterprise and requires more thought. So I need to update to hide the billing buttons for enterprise customer sign-ins, as well as the top-up flow for now. Everything I built this week, it sounds like, should be hidden from enterprise customers. Anything related to charging a card or topping up or entering in a credit card right now should get hidden until we talk about it more. But for independent builders like Music Ben, Excelencia, Secondhand Talent, Skills, DJ Skills, and all them, they'll be able to use it now, and you should be able to start seeing it in Stripe. Have you checked Stripe and seen all those charges that are coming on my card and your card?
Yeah.
So now you'll be able to, there's now a super accessible tier of top up whatever amount you want, pick your amount. And I built the pricing so that the customer eats the Stripe charge. So that way we get the full amount, that because if we are forwarding, if we're being charged $5 by Anthropic, we need to be able to pay that $5. And if we have to eat a Stripe charge as well, that makes us in a losing money position. So you'll notice when you top up credits, if you select $100, you end up paying $103 or something like that. And so the customer is paying for the Stripe processing fee, which is, I believe, 30 cents, 3 cents, something like that, plus 3%, whatever it is, the customers are paying it.
Yeah.
Stuff that I still have to do on credits. You wanted a toggle opt-out.
It doesn't have to be a toggle. I mean, I guess it does have to be a toggle for the UI, but mainly just like, since it's just like the option of turning it off if the user doesn't want it.
Right. I'm thinking of storing that in the Stripe customer so that I don't need to modify the database for now. Because if you're charging someone, it's charging their Stripe card. So putting that in Stripe is one less thing we need to maintain in our database. And it's putting it where it already needs to be used, which is associated with this specific Stripe customer. Organization, I'll remove everything from enterprise customers. And I'm syncing the credit usage with usage events. Credit usage is what we have been using up and until this point. It is a single line that says for this account, they have this number of credits. And the usage event is a line item for each time credits are used. It has detailed what was the model that was used. Was it a main agent or a sub agent? Was it from the web or from the API, etc. They both are important to keep, and this is a good addition that we're getting from Sandbox. And now I've unified part of it this morning. If you use the research endpoints before today, it would deduct it from our single line item number of credits, but it did not add it to the usage events for us to be able to see what people are using. Now, as of 5 minutes ago, or at the start of this call, when you jumped in and I merged something, it's now synced. So every time credits get charged, it also adds it to that line, which is going to give us, you and I, better visibility on not just who's using the most credits and how much credits have they deducted, but for each customer, what are they doing to deduct credits? Are they using the research endpoints? Are they using chat? What models are they using? And I think that is a good thing for us to be monitoring so that we can see what is actually deducting credits, because that's how we get paid. So seeing what is getting used most will help us to decide what to invest more time in, what's not being used, and how to increase the bottom line of income. This is a side quest for me trying to merge everything over because of the call we had with Music Ben last week. I ended up spending pretty much all week on this. And so today I'm going to wrap it up with the last feedback that you gave, so that way next week I can have a clean plate again. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the current main focus is deprecate chat code base, and we do that by updating the Sandbox code base with anything that's important so that we can sunset it without having any regressions in functionality. Am I correct that this migration and deprecation of chat and getting Sandbox on par is the highest priority, or is there something more? What is more important than this migration?
So let's talk about that. I had a call with the customer yesterday. Partially the call was to demo the catalog agent, which I'll get into on this call. The other part of that call was to talk about permissions and the blockers that we're having when it comes to like how their org is set up to let agents, Recoup agents or any agents, access the important work that everybody does. And there were some interesting insights from that call, which is it's the same issue that every organization is having right now, which is like, how do I do this safely? And if the IT team at the company isn't familiar with agents and all they do is read AOL.com news of this agent just deleted this database for everybody, then like they are on the opposite end of the spectrum of understanding what agents can do and why it's important to connect them. But I think that what I was talking with the customer about was the idea that in an organization, setting up the security and permissions for each individual member of staff of how their agent systems will let them work on the things that they work on, depending on their level of access, is incredibly important to solve at the company level, not at the vendor level. Like Recoup is not going to solve that for an organization. Like that needs to happen internally, right? And so some insights that came out of that. One was that organizations are going to go with the AI agent platforms that are the leaders, right? They're going to adopt Claude Code and OpenAI and Codex first. And so regardless of anything that happens, we need to assume that everybody, sooner than later, everybody will have Codex or Claude desktop on their computers, and they will have their own agent harness, right? Whether it's company affiliated or it's a personal one or whatever it is, they're going to have that. So as I was talking with him about that, the question became like, on one side, how if you roll out Claude Code across the organization, or Claude Cowork or Codex or whatever it is, how are you making sure that each person's instance and environment on their computer has the security and the permissions and the environment that gives their agents the same security and access to what those people do on the daily? So if they use G Drive, the agents on their computer and their Claude need to be able to read and write to G Drive. And if they can access financial data in, a NetSuite system, the agents on that computer, on that work environment, should also be able to do that and set it up. So we were talking through that, and so like it seems as though the world is moving towards that path of like, people are going to have agents on they're going to bring your own agents is going to be the thing. And then so I guess going back to the question of then what is our sandbox best used for? If Claude is spinning up sandboxes for people, if Codex is spinning up sandboxes for people, where's the value of our sandbox? Where is the value of our front end chat? Where is the value of, like, where do we focus on? Do I spend my time? Is it better use of my time to sit down with a customer and teach them how to use our front end chat and hit the walls of like, oh, well, it won't let us use G Drive, or it won't let this, or you have to drag over here and drop this? Or is it better use of my time to help them set up their Claude Cowork and make sure that by the end of the session, they have a Recoup API key, and every time they use their Claude Cowork, their system knows how to use Recoup. They never have to log in again. It's hitting our APIs when they go do research, and they they're using our tooling. And again, I'm throwing this question out to you is because we're in this limbo right now, and it feels like the world is moving so fast, but there's certain people that are not catching up. There's certain people that are catching up, and I'm trying to figure out where the where the value is of your time, of my time, where the puck is going, and what is the requirements for building anything outside of where the puck is going. Like what are the rule sets in which we decide, yes, we need to build this thing because even though the puck is not going that way, like it's preventing us from getting a customer, or it's preventing us from maintaining a customer. So anyways, I'll stop there to ask you your thoughts on where you're at with Sandbox, where you're at with the migration, and like where your thoughts are if as we move towards the bring your own agent world, where does our sandboxes fit in? Where does like setting up the customer's GitHub and saving their context for their art, like how does that all, where does our systems fit in that?
Great questions. Great questions. We built sandboxes to use a file system because when people are working with AI, they generate files and they need to give files as context. With Claude Co-working Codex, it has access to your entire file system on your local machine, both to read and write from there. So Excellencia doesn't really need to use our sandboxes and our APIs for reading and writing. Those files are not as efficient as Codex and Claude Co-work, just reading his local file system and finding the files wherever they are on his machine. So local usage, personal files, if our customers want to incentivize their team to use AI locally, and we know that they'll reimburse their employees' use of Claude Co-working Codex, I think that's one less thing that we need to maintain and that we won't beat Codex and ChatGPT on, and we should work on reducing the number of things that we need to maintain so that way we can hyper-focus and be best at the things that we excel at that OpenAI and Anthropic are not focusing on. For personal file use, the local machine is the best. It's where people put their files before they start working with us. It's where all their work is before they start working with us. And it gives them the most ownership of what they're doing. For shared files, we have built a system so that if you're working in an organization, your files are shared across everybody. That then goes into your point of the file permissions. So the question with this specific enterprise customer is, where do they want their shared files to live? Do they want them to live where they have been living, in Box, in G Drive, etc.? Or do they want to say, we won't be giving agents permission? Our employees will not be getting access to be able to view the things that they can view with a username and password. We won't be allowing that into their agents. In that case, our file system is the only option, and we then provide shared access. If they are open to inviting shared@recoupable.com or allowing each of their employees to have an API key so that their agent can read and write directly from Box using their agents, I think they should do that because it's, again, one less thing that we need to maintain. It is less copying and pasting that we've heard from Jessica is something that she wants to avoid as well. And the sources of truth stay where they expect them to be. So I think this specific customer is who we should be focusing on. Where do you see the CEO leaning in terms of giving everybody Claude Cowork and Codex? So one, what are your thoughts on
Just to answer that first question is
and file sharing?
good question. Okay, first answer is within the last 2 weeks they've decided to get a Claude Teams account, so it's no longer going to be a we'll reimburse you. It's a everybody
gets it.
our company Claude account. So like that's begun. I asked them who's maintaining the Claude account, and that was where the buck stopped. So like the value that I'm providing from a non-Recoup perspective right now is like meeting and being like, this is how you install plugins from third parties. This is how you install global settings across your users to give them API keys that you control. Like starting the process of here's how you manage environments when you have Claude Code or Claude Cowork. But assuming that everybody's going to have Cowork and code, assuming that everybody's going to have different skill levels of it, but that, like you said, Claude or Codex are going to be maintaining the general user value of agents. Like it already does a lot of the heavy lifting. I see us going there. Now, let's talk about file systems though, because from a user perspective, wait, let me rephrase that. From a shared file system setting, the organizations are not going to change where they store their files, their shared files. It's just not going to happen. So systems of record are going to be the same for a while, I would say. And like systems of record, whether it be documentation in Google Drive, whether it be royalty data in Sync Tank, whether it be whatever it may be, like the systems of record are going to be there. Now it's going to be way easier, and it's going to be way easier for the customer to connect through a Claude G Drive connection. Convince an IT team to like let that happen, then let us or a startup connect to their entire G Drive or C suite. So like even there, it's like I think it's going to be easier. But the value of file systems in my head, local systems and shared system. Let's talk about like the value of shared systems is giving our agents the ability to do things not locally on behalf of our customers that then their agents can access with our API key, right? Like, so like if our customer never sets up a weekly scheduled task on their own of, I want you to go and build an entire context system for Gatsby Grace. I think us helping them get there, like the opinionated context is where I think our file system adds value per customer. Is we have opinionated context on what is going to be important when a customer tries to do something with their artist, with their catalog, with research on context, like if we can provide help with context management to give them better results, I feel like that's something that is valuable. Again, because, and the way I'm a lot of this though is based off of the assumption of adoption rates, because I see how I'm setting up locally my Gatsby Grace folder and how easy it is for me. Like once I'm build out the context system, I can go and run a bunch of the. I can do so much when I'm local, and if I'm an early adopter and local and I know what I'm doing with context management, like personal agents become incredibly powerful and I can go get a bunch of stuff done. And then Recoup becomes the system of like, okay, cool. Like I can just be like, go schedule this, go post on TikTok, go do this. And it's pulling all of my, my context, right? So my assumption is that like an organization is not going to have a context manager for their roster, for their catalog. They're not going to have a context manager. So the more that we can help them with their context systems and opinionatedly do it without asking them, right? Like, cool, you set up a new artist. I've scraped everything I can like we're currently doing. I also added a bunch of face images. I generated the face images. I generated a couple of pieces of social short form content for you. If you want them, just ask me. And then all they have to do is go into Claude and be like, hey, do you have any social content for this album rollout? Boom. Like I just checked Recoup. You have all of this stuff waiting for you. Like they don't have to go to Higgsfield to then go to this, to then be like, oh, wait, let me upload my artist's thing over here. Like we're delivering the service of managing context and AI systems for them so that they can get a faster result with higher rate of using that result. But then again, it goes back to like, those are the opinions, highly opinionated, which I think is the value of where we're coming from.
I agree. That's the value. You started this off with saying outside of Recoup, like the service you're providing is not kind of a part of Recoup. I believe that the service layer is the more valuable layer, that your opinions and your experience are what most of our enterprise customers are going to be willing to spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on, is getting Sid's time, Sid who's exploring the intersection of music and AI, because nobody else is doing that. And your highly specialized knowledge is what they're going to be willing to pay for, like they would pay for an employee. I like what you said. And so I think skills and plugins, which we talked about earlier in this call, you ship without review, is one of the most important parts of the stack. Opinionated, unified context is the value that we provide. Anthropic is working on being general. OpenAI is working on being general. They can't and won't play safe with every single API that the record label needs. And Recoup provides the value of unifying it all, giving you skills that tells your agent how to use it in your context, doing the hyper-specific niche of music, building a record label, and providing that. Free tier customers and top-up customers can get that out of the box using our docs. They don't get Sid's time because they can't afford Sid's time. Record labels pay for Sid to get on the phone, understand what they need, custom skills, have a dev team that's going to build any tech and APIs that are required to connect all that together. I wrote down Recoup sandboxes are for when your employees close their computer, but then I wrote a follow-up. I think that's only for now. I have a feeling Anthropic and OpenAI, they already have cloud-based, like Cursor has cloud-based agents that you can use from Slack. So does OpenAI. The only reason Claude doesn't offer it well is because they're limited on compute, and it's a temporary bottleneck until they scale up.
they have routines, but it's only in Claude Code right now. But it's only a matter of time before
Only a matter of time. Right. So where the puck's going is the employee shutting the computer isn't necessarily a thing, but also what you said is we did a whole bunch of things in the background that you didn't have to worry about. And I'm wondering if even if we install skills, will Codex and Anthropic do all those extra things that we could be doing proactively? That is where I don't have a clear answer right now.
But to go back of like, is the depreciation of the chat and moving into sandboxes the best use of your time? I don't have an answer for that right now.
Taking a step back on it, why did Vercel publish open agents? They built it so that all the companies, Stripe, Ramp, Coinbase, that are doing these massive layoffs and are saying even non-technical people can ship code, they give them an environment that's not on their local machine, that has shared context to be able to write pull requests, open pull requests, review and merge pull requests, very code focused. Does that continue to add value? In this conversation, I'm slowly asking the question, do we need a chat interface at all? Obviously, we do for edge case customers. It's something that we need to have in there, but for people that aren't keeping up with having their own personal agent. But in general, is our web UI just to help organize your account for your local machine to be able to do everything that it needs? For example, connecting TikTok, managing your connections, seeing your schedule, things that you could do if you talk to your agent, but a visual interface is nice. It's just like an admin dashboard. Right now, the status is we are in the middle of a migration from one architecture to another. Do we continue with this migration, or do I walk back the decision and we continue to support chat, which doesn't have good sandbox integrations, is not a good coding agent? But if we don't really care, if the goal is they're using it on their local machines, we don't need to worry about a sandbox environment. What is the value of having a web-based or sandbox-based environment? And I think your point was apt, which is we proactively do work which your local Claude and your local Codex will not do unless you heavily prompt engineer at the level that Sid knows how to do. And I don't even know if you've set up Codex and Claude Code to be able to run all the things in the background proactively that we could be doing with Recoup. Our system might be always on in the background doing things that are helpful. And then the question is having a sandbox or a chat the correct interface for doing it, or is it focusing on our tasks and expanding our tasks as like the main landing pages? You see your tasks, you see what tasks we have run. We focus more on tasks.
Yeah, more paperclippy, right? Like letting it
your dashboard, right?
Yeah. I know we're at time, so I'll leave you with this. As of yesterday, so this is like a net new discovery. The reason why we were building sandboxes or migrating to sandboxes over the last 2 weeks is because our customers needed a front-end interface to be able to chat with that uses that was able to supply a coding agent, right? They are now moving towards they're going to come with one themselves. And so I'll leave you with that of like, while I do think sandboxes are important, I do understand, like, but the question then becomes, where is, if we can provide the exact same oh my god demo in Claude code or Claude of Recoup that we got in our chat interface or more, like that, the cell becomes the tooling and the services to set up the tooling in a trusted, secure environment that your IT team will be okay with connecting because it's a $300 billion company, right? Or you probably already have all of your users. Like, it's like the sell becomes a lot easier on my end, to be honest. Like, then use our system. It's it's a much easier sell. And I think also we probably have like 3 to 6 months away from this, but like none of our customers are doing that. I mean, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. None of our competition is doing it that way.
Right.
Our competition are building web apps, and they're trying to get people to use their web systems and their chat systems. Even, like, so if we can figure out where the front end adds the value, if anything, I almost feel like the migration might be more valuable on the marketing site, where I have a demo of a user can come in and ask me about Drake, and it does the entire demo on our marketing site. And right now it's using AI SDK and our Recoup APIs, but sandboxes aren't included in it. So like, it's almost like, if anything, what's the most value that we can supply from a sandboxing and like front end building ourselves? It's like, how do we show the customer what we're capable of doing visually, so they want to get more information and buy. And then from there we can say, all right, well, do you have Claude? Do you have Codex? Or do you want to use a system that we set up? Like, which the marketing site is not merged, or it's live, but it's in its own thing. So you can pull it and like view at where it's at. I just haven't like swapped it because I'm still tweaking it a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. This is a big question, so maybe we take the weekend.
I know we are at time. Is there anything else you want to cover on this call, or do we wrap it up here?
I know, man. I think we can wrap it up here. It was a good call. Things are moving so fast, man.
Things are moving fast. Thank you all for tuning in. If you watch this, you are caught up to date on the latest and greatest that's going on at the intersection of AI and music. Take this weekend, unplug, process what you just heard, and we'll be back on Monday to keep you up to date.